welcome to ET Studios Future Brands of India in association with ET Retail. I'm Hemanshi Tewari. Now in this episode, we are joined in by a founder who has redefined luxury by blending sustainability and consciousness to his product offerings. We are joined in by Vivek Ramabhadran, founder and CEO Aulerth. Vivek, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Hemanshi. Thanks for having me here.
All right, Vivek, starting with what inspired you to start this brand?
Sure. So, Aulerth is, I think, collection of learnings that I built over my time at Swarovski. So, I spent 9 years at Swarovski heading the India and then later South Asia business on the B2B side. Prior to that was with McKinsey. So, this helped me look at things from an external perspective. And, building a whole bunch of learnings, one clear thing was that I felt there's a lot of opportunity in the next 20 to 50 years in the premiumization space in India. That was becoming more and more clear. The rest of it, I think it was definitely at COVID time that made us all stop in our tracks and reflect in life and what we wanted to do. And for me, this whole thing came together where I felt there's an opportunity brewing in this alternate to gold space. I felt that there is this very exciting creator ecosystem that is building up as well. And lastly, I felt that I have this very optimistic view that people do want to have more meaning and purpose in their lives. And especially even when it comes to materialistic objects, people want to have a little more purpose, little more context, and striving to see some sort of meaning without compromising on the experience they have. Yeah. So Aulerth is an amalgamation of these three macro thoughts.
All right, so you have worked with legacy brands like you were telling. So how starting your own D2C venture is different from that sort of space where you are working with the brands who are already established?
Yeah. No, it's fundamentally different, and I think we underestimate the difference sometimes before. So I was with Swarovski for 9 years, knew the company really, really well. Had a wonderful time growing the business with the team. And of course, we had our own challenges as well. But it's completely different when you're starting from scratch. I mean, when you are working in a brand which has a legacy of 125 years, your focus is more on bringing the interpretation of that into, say, these Indian and other emerging Asian markets. Because everybody there may not know everything. But the backing of the company and everything is very clear, right? So, and then a lot of work becomes more, management of headquarters, a lot of larger organizational issues. I used to run a team of 180 people across 8 countries. So different cultural issues as well, then managing headquarters or Austria. It's a very different ball game from starting something from scratch where you're, testing your thoughts, you're converting to product, then you have to sell the idea to get the first team on board. And then together you're building something and you have to learn every day. It's a completely different.
So was there a time when you thought that it's not happening?
Yeah, a lot of times. No, so it's, of course, I mean, I'm very grateful that we've generally had a very positive ride. Our products have been very well appreciated. More importantly, our intent and narrative has been very well appreciated, which a lot of people felt that it won't be, India isn't ready for these kind of brands. We got a lot of that as well. And of course, there are some times when it's a bit difficult, but honestly, it's been, the highs have been much more than the lows. So just very grateful. And there's long way to go to keep learning.
All right, we are already seeing the highs now, Vivek. But we want to talk about the lows now.
Sure.
What challenges did you face while setting up your D2C brand, which was the concept of which was new for Indian consumers?
Sure.
Because traditionally the jewelry industry revolves around gold and diamonds.
Yes.
And now you were working with scrap materials or man-made stones and stuff. So how did the audience receive that, and what kind of challenges did you face in your journey?
Yeah. So I'll just step back first as to what's the context behind Aulerth, and then I'll answer this question. I think it'll be easier. So fundamentally, I have this strong belief that I talked about premiumization, and India will increasingly experience more and more premium and bridge to luxury and luxury brands in this consumption space, right? And that's wonderful. Having said all of that, I think we also need to approach things with a change. So when I say change, what do I mean, right? Like, when it comes down to finally thinking of what will actually make a big difference to this environment footprint that we are creating and creating a mess of, many angles are there. People talk about different things, but I felt there's one aspect which is much more a mindset aspect than some technology or something, which is how we see preciousness, you know. If you think of any product today that we see as precious, could be jewelry made of gold and diamonds, could be, you know, a luxury leather bag made of, you know, calf leather or python leather or, you know, ostrich leather, pashmina garments made from the hairs of pashmina goats, and so on. In all of these, that material plays a very important part of the preciousness. Now, those materials happen to be also destructive to the planet, in some cases cruel as well to animals and wildlife. So the question is, can we make people see preciousness in a different way, where it's not about these materials, but actually it's about beautiful design, beautiful craftsmanship, and a conscious ideology? Then there's this very other interesting dynamic, right? If you see brands today that are highly desirable, like the top luxury brands internationally, and some of them now increasingly in India as well, they are basically focused on the desirability aspect, the glamour aspect, the high fashion aspect, the kind of lifestyle that you're buying into that brand promise. And then there is this other set of, you know, upcoming upstart brands which are looking at, okay, you know, these are alternative materials which are more eco-friendly, let's use them in products and then try it. But then these products are not very desirable, generally speaking, right? And I felt that if the products are not desirable, it's not going to work. And the biggest insight was, people are not going to do something just because it's better for the environment. Unfortunately and cynically, that is true, because if that were the case, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are in. So we have to make, it's about blending these two worlds. We have to make something extremely desirable, you know, and we use high design, high craftsmanship, and you know, all of this to basically as a tool to help us do that. And when you have that, and then of course layer that with a conscious ideology in how the product is made, and also talk about it, because awareness is also important. And then, you know, you can come up with something interesting, and that's what Aulerth really is. Now, coming to your question, how do consumers accept this? Of course, you're absolutely right. I mean, jewelry in India, you know, is a big market, 80 to 100 billion dollars. 90%, it's a huge number, 90% is basically with gold. India is somewhere between the largest and second largest importer and consumer of gold, right? It's very deeply seeped into our culture and tradition and all of that. So, you know, how will this change? The interesting thing is that there's this footprint part, right? Which is that gold, unfortunately, is also very toxic and destructive to the environment. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware, but a single tiny ring, 22 karat gold ring, would have generated as much as this entire studio filled up with cyanide and mercury waste. So that translates to 6 billion tons of toxic waste, 100 million tons of carbon. Can you imagine 1/3 of that globally would be attributed to Indian demand? So definitely there's some cause for change. And if we had to start, you know, India would actually be the place to start. I mean, wherever we were in the world, right? Now, the question is, are people ready for this? Can they do it? It's tradition, culture, and all of that. And here I think there is very difficult to basically have somebody just on the basis of this argument say, oh, okay, fine, so I'm not using gold, so let's do this. There are very, very, very few people like that. Unfortunately, that's true. And of course, those people get drawn to us very easily, because those people are looking for such kinds of offerings and brands in their entire lifestyle. So we don't even have to do so much as to go out and hunt for them. We're very fortunate. They actually come out for brands like us, and of course similar in other spaces as well. But difference cannot be made if you're just going to cater to that, right? So the question is, what other problem could be there that we could solve? What else? What is a gap potentially in the jewelry space which is there today? And that's where, when we did our research, there was this very interesting insight, and I'm quite fascinated by it, which was true 2 years ago, it's true today, every day when we talk to our clients, which is that while women love their jewelry, they love to wear jewelry as opposed to own and store and, you know, keep it in locker and all that. So now, but when we think about women wearing jewelry, the wearing experience is quite broken. 4 out of 5 women would acknowledge, and maybe you can say if this is true for you as well, that when it comes to a special occasion where you're dressing up, it could be like a party with your colleagues, it could be a birthday celebration, a date, or a nice evening with your partner, all the way up to a friend's wedding, your sister's wedding, maybe your own wedding, daughter's wedding. So that whole spectrum of occasions where you're thinking a little bit about what you're wearing, what jewelry you want, and so on. 4 out of 5 women would acknowledge that they struggle to find the right jewelry to wear for those occasions.
Exactly.
And so you would agree with that?
Yeah, because you want the personalized jewelry, depending on what outfit you're going to wear.
Exactly. So the biggest
going.
thing is that the jewelry doesn't match with the outfit.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. That's the first number one thing that comes up. The second one that comes up is, there's this sort of fatigue. I've worn this again and again and again. So, that's another problem. So now if you think about it, why is this happening? There's no dearth of jewelry available in this country. And when you peel that back, you realize that, okay, so every woman owns some gold jewelry given to her maybe at her wedding time or mother's passed on, whatever. Most of that jewelry is too traditional, it's too dated, it's not something that she connects with. And it's lying in some locker, it's cumbersome to store and retrieve, typically the problem. You can buy more, but then when you're talking about anything that's ornate and well designed and all that, gold is today at 7,000 rupees a gram. I mean, you're going to set yourself off by 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, whatever. And today's consumer, very well, while they're spending in so many other things, gold jewelry is not something they are increasingly seeing as an investment, unlike 50 years ago. So that's also not there. Now, I'm not talking about the Carrot Lane, Bluestone, Melora, and those kinds of brands which are everyday wear light jewelry. That's a separate market, and that obviously has a space. But I'm talking about those where you're kind of wanting to dress up and express yourself in some way, right, along with your outfit. That's where the problem is. And now, on the other hand, there is technically costume and imitation jewelry that's been there for such purposes. But in India, the problem in that space is that the quality of products is extremely poor. Loads of people, therefore, have very bad experiences where they've tried something and then they feel that, it's left allergic reactions on their skin, it doesn't, brass pores in the earrings don't really work out, causes like swelling and all that stuff. So this is one problem. The second is the product itself generally breaks after 1 or 2 uses. It's a very common complaint. So there's no trust people have when it comes to something that's not gold. And because there's no trust, the manufacturing system also believes that, acha, we'll just make it like this only because they're not going to value it anyway. So the products are in this vicious cycle. This is something I observed being in the B2B space and working with lots of manufacturers, not just in India, but the rest of Asia as well. And this is not the case globally, right? So therefore, there is obviously an interesting gap over here. So therefore, the point is that the idea was, okay, if we create a platform which basically offers, distinctive quality, distinctive design, huge variety, because, it's the same person like you might feel like, depending on the occasion, your jewelry need is completely different, right? And offer flexible usage, which means that you own it, but you're not stuck with it. If you're not wearing it after 6, 7 times, about 7 times research showed that after that people don't wear something again. So unless it's your like wedding ring or something. And so, it's just languishing in the corner of your wardrobe. So you can bring it back and exchange it for something else, or, can you just wear and return as well? We understood that people actually in jewelry, they already do that. They do that amongst themselves. You've probably borrowed jewelry from your sister, your friend, or something for a specific occasion. So people are, so if we can bring that in a formalized way, that can also unlock this huge power. So that's essentially the idea of Aulerth as a platform. And then to give this more gravitas, there are 2 important things, right? So one is that because we're about high design and high craftsmanship, so we said we will work only with the best grade of karigars and craftsmen in the country. These are not people who regularly work on jewelry that's costume and imitation and all that. We work with very fine jewelry grade karigars. So automatically that gives the product a certain depth a certain finish, a certain certain very high level of finesse. And then to make this more interesting and get that variety of design, I thought that rather than just having one more amongst 400,000 brands in the country, jewelry brands, so we'll create this designer platform. So we partner with the top design talent in the country. So we have today partnerships with JJ Valaya, Suneet Verma, Kaya Banaras, Shivan Naresh, Amrapali, and there'll be more and more.
Yeah,
that
so
will come.
basically you've married desirability
Yes.
and consciousness
Absolutely.
together, and that is
Absolutely.
what Aulerth is for
Absolutely.
us, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also, there's one very interesting thing that you're also talking about in your previous answer, Vivek. There's the circular usage model that
Yeah.
Aulerth follows, and also Aulerth Loop that offers rental jewelry, right?
Yeah.
So, what is all that about, and how the audiences, how your consumers kind of receive such, things when you're bringing out in the market for the
Sure.
wider audience?
So first of all, why do we have to do it, right? So the reason is clear. If you're talking about bringing more consciousness and a mindful way to experience jewelry, one part of that is the low footprint materials, which we've discussed. But the second part is also usage, because jewelry as a product, its utilization is very poor. A lot of times a jewelry piece is worn handful of times, right? Single digit numbers in its lifetime. So there's something obviously wrong in that. And now, therefore, that's the motivation that, okay, circularity definitely has to come into this category. Then you also see that this can help solve that problem, which 4 out of 5 women say that they struggle to find the right jewelry to wear. Fashion sensibilities are changing also so fast. So, jewelry has generally lagged behind. So, again, bringing circularity in usage, it's very interesting. It's not only more sustainable, but it's actually also potentially provides more value to the client. So therefore, every product that we create in Aulerth is circular, and we have 2 circular models. One is that you buy a piece of jewelry and then it's yours. If you're not wearing it after any point of time, it could be like 2 days to 20 years, you can bring it back and you will get 50% towards something else. So you can exchange it for 50% of its value towards another design. So that's one model. And the second model is the Aulerth Loop, which is where, and a lot of women are like that also, where they say, I like this, but I don't see myself wearing this too often. I want to wear this for this particular occasion, these 2 weddings and so on, but I don't want to accumulate too much. So we are here to say, don't buy it. If you're not going to wear it more than once or twice, use this Aulerth Loop. So we give you an opportunity to pay a fee. It's yours for 2 weeks, then you give it back. A lot of times, it's very interesting how people have started using it. So you have, one use case is obviously brides for their weddings, but a huge, big normal use case is basically the bride's family, the mom, the sister, and all of that. They come typically and they take like one big chunk of, 10 to 15 jewelry pieces, depending on the outfits that they have, and then they share within themselves as well. So they actually maximize the value of that. And 2 weeks is a good time where, for a wedding, you're not too stressed. So you get it few days later. And it's not like at the day of the wedding in the evening, then you're like, oh shit, I have to give this back. So, and then also when you're traveling for weddings, it again allows you a little bit of breathing space. So we figured that works as well. So no, so the loop option is actually picking up really well. And I think that, again, it's an extension of behavior that was already there. Women are used to borrowing and sharing jewelry amongst each other. We are just bringing a formalized way to do it.
All right, so could you share some growth figures with us when it comes to the acceptance of such models?
Sure. So, I think the best truth always comes out from numbers. We have like a 20 to 25+% repeat rate on the loop, and it's really been only the last 8 months that we've really sharpened it and gotten the word out. So that's obviously a very good number, and because otherwise jewelry, if you think it's a category where the brand interacts with the customer very few times in your lifetime, right? Whereas for us, 30% of our transactions, 30% of our sales every month is coming from existing clients. They're not buying all the time. One of the levers is the Aulerth Loop. So that's actually working out for us. So the Aulerth Loop also allows for it's like a problem with a solution, which is also good to have, because a lot of times jewelry is something like, okay, if I like it, I'll buy it, but I don't really need it. So, I can buy it whenever, right? But the loop is like, there's a date, there's a time, there's this wedding, there's a need. So it's good for us as a business, also a growing business, to also have a sort of problem, need, solution kind of use case to have, and that also actually pretty much works out. And people love it, right? Because that's the thing they actually talk about the most. And we found that they're really happy sharing about it with others. We tell our story through them, and we figured out how to do that in better ways. NRIs love this. So you've got folks who are coming to India for weddings. They talk to us from there. They decide, they share pictures of the outfits, so we match out what jewelry they need, and we keep it for them. They come here, we ship it to their hotel rooms. They wear it, use it, and then we pick it up from the hotel room, and they've gone back. So they feel super light, super convenient. So, and I think there's just the beginning. There's a lot more we'll do here.
So it's really great perspectives, Vivek, but also I want to know about the technology aspect of any D2C company for that matter. So how do you understand what your consumer wants? Because when it comes to jewelry, the preferences are different.
Yes.
And it's wide, right? And you also have consumers from the international consumers as well, who are not only in the country, but also global audience that you have. So talking about that, what are your views?
Sure. Technology plays a big part. I mean, there's the basics, you have to have your website platform, then all the relevant apps to support the customer journey. You have to have your ERP systems for inventory control, billing, all of that. So that's basic, that's there. Going one step further, what you're talking about, that's very advanced stuff. I mean, like, can we use AI intelligence to actually, in the designing process, to make sure that we design accurately, and there's a higher hit rate in designs? Because, the truth is, it's like a fashion business, right? It's the biggest challenge. Out of every 10 designs, 3 or 4 will do really well. 2 or 3 will do okay, but 3 to 4 will not do so well. How can you minimize that?
Basically give personalized stuff to your audiences, depending on from which city they belong.
And people don't want to wait also, right? See, one way is that I can just take your order and then I'll do it completely bespoke for you. But then you have to wait for 6 weeks. Are you going to wait? No. All the other stuff that we talked about, it doesn't. Jewelry is also typically, when you're wearing for these occasions, it's the last minute dynamic that comes in. People keep thinking about their outfits for 98% of the time, and jewelry is the afterthought which comes at the end. So we have to be fast in what we do. So therefore, you have to have stock. If you have to have stock, and you're managing inventory, then how intelligently you manage your inventory is very important. And so hence design intelligence is very important. We are very early in this stage. We will be building our own systems to do this. What we do right now is we have our own rules that we develop based on the feedback as soon as designs go out, and there is how people respond to it on social media. Through our paid and unpaid ways, you get a sense of this design works better. The second is obviously when you're in front of people at our stores, at events, and all of that. And what we've done is we break a design into, there are 85 variables, right? So depending on the kind of finish, the kind of work, the kind of stone, the kind of setting, the dominant color, the secondary color, and all of that, because sometimes we think, hey, this looks really nice, and that happens, but that's not how the customer thinks. And this is also not a business where if you can't go and ask a customer what you want. I mean, some customers will say, yes, if it's a bespoke thing that we do, that's okay. But even customers don't know what they want, right? So you have to inspire them. So, but there is a pattern, right? Like if you are a person who has a sort of bohemian vibe in your dressing, and then, then it will reflect in maybe certain vintage antique preference of jewelry. If you're a person who dresses lean, but then, wants to wear big earrings and big statements, and typically, yes, then shiny gold finish type. So everybody has that. You can assess that, and then you ask certain questions, you can figure out. So we're doing all that work right now, and over a period of time, this will all be built into a machine learning algorithm, which will allow us to be much, much sharper and faster as we go forward.
All right, so the future is tech.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Now, as we are winding up this episode, Vivek, just quickly tell me, what are your future projections when it comes to Aulerth, or what are your expansion plans for the
Yeah.
upcoming few years?
Sure. So we learned we are in our second year right now. It's the second season right now. The first year was really about building the foundation, testing our narrative product. We figured that out. We did lots of events, and then we sharpened our product price proposition. We got there. Second period, which we're in the middle of, is increasing distribution, building the first pillars of distribution and learning how to do that. So we started like selling at more third-party locations. So we've started building that network up. But 70% of the sales is still from our own channels. Because in India, fundamentally, for premium to luxury products, distribution is generally a challenge. You have to build it yourself. So today already, even though we're so young, 70% is already from our own channels. And that's our stores and our website. So the store is something that was a new, as an experiment for us. We built 3 stores, so one in Delhi, Bangalore and Hyderabad, plus a studio in Gurgaon. And we do lots of experiments there. We learn every day from there. And we figured that the store is going to be an important element.
Yeah, of
going
course,
forward.
Because there's also a trust factor when it comes to
trust
buying
factor,
jewelry, right?
plus there's so many other learnings that you have. I can get into more time. But so therefore, we'll build a business along the stores. So we see that, over the next 7-8 years towards the journey of being an 800 to 1,000 crore brand. So we see at least 150 stores across the country. And so that's something that we will be working towards with milestones along the way. We see that building an online business, so that's something which we are now really focusing on. We've always been content driven, very organic online, but using actually, paid marketing acquisition to do that. That's
and collaborations as well.
That's something now that we are really going to do. And we are building that model of the true omni-channel model. Discover you on Instagram, online, then how sharp can we get you to the store or service you at your home. So all of that works. Yes, of course, there will be more partnerships. Today we have 5. Like I said, every year we will add 2 to 3, and then that will also scale up. International partnerships will also be part of this. And our partnerships are generally long-term. So we don't see the need to have like 600, 800 of those. It will be more 20, 30, 50, in those kinds of numbers. And yes, so more partnerships, more stores, build this online channel meaningfully. And build for the market outside India as well. We are already seeing that 20 to 25% of our momentum in sales organically comes from abroad. So it's a clear opportunity. That's not something we should be seeing only after 5 years. So it's somehow simultaneously can we build towards that is also going to be a big part of it.
All right, on that note, thank you so much for joining us today, Vivek. We have got some brilliant insights and very good perspectives on jewelry industry from you. Thank you so much. And to our viewers, stay tuned for more such videos only on ET Studios, Future Brands of India in association with ET Retail.